Hello and welcome to Conditionally Accepted podcast. I'm Ding Li, an AI and HCI researcher, and Conditionally Accepted is my show about research, work, and life at the intersection of human and technology. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Toby Li, an assistant professor at the University of Notre Dame. Toby's research focuses on designing practical, human-centered AI systems for those really complex, knowledge-intensive tasks that we face every day. He recently became the director of Human-Centered Responsible AI Lab at the Lucey Family Institute for Data Science and Society. In this episode, we explore Toby's journey as a new faculty member and how he's building his research group from the ground up. Toby shares his unique approach to fostering a thriving lab culture, emphasizing the importance of open communication, trust, and always putting his students' interests first. We also get to some really interesting discussions about the potential pitfalls of algorithm management at Amazon warehouses, the realities of academic salaries, and his vision for the future of responsible AI. Toby's candid insights make this truly captivating conversation. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Hello, Toby. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lydian. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I saw on social posts that you recently started directing a new big lab. Congratulations. That seems like a big thing for you.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, we'll come back later in the episode. We have a lot of topics to cover today. Let's start from your current position in University of Notre Dame. You started around like 3 years ago. How large is the group now?
So I currently have 7 PhD students in my group, as well as, around 4 or 5 undergrad research assistants.
That's pretty big group. How I guess you start right after your PhD. So like, how's your experience growing that group?
I graduated back in the summer of 2021. So my job search was, around the end of 2020, which was, right around the height of the pandemic. So that was quite unusual. But I was very fortunate to be able to land a job at the University of Notre Dame as an assistant professor in the computer science and engineering department. And now I think a lot of people would choose to, it almost seems like a norm now that people will defer their faculty job for a year to do a postdoc somewhere else. But I just decided to start right away. And back then, I was very grateful that Notre Dame was very flexible. Like they allowed me to basically recruit students off cycle. Because when I signed my contract, that was already April of 2021. So if you're familiar with usually the admissions timeline of PhD, like that's already towards the very end of it, where like decisions for the students to choose offers have already been made. But Notre Dame was very flexible. They're like, hey, if you can still find students who are willing to join your lab, like they're willing to make that exception to admit those students off cycle. And I was fortunate to be able to recruit 4 PhD students as the first batch of my students, and they just really joined at around the same time as I joined. So that worked out really well.
That's really impressive as a new faculty. Like recruiting 4 students in first year sounds like a big achievement. How, like, did you use what kind of approach did you take to recruit such?
I announced my new job and the openings through mostly social media and also word of mouth. I've been talking to my friend. I was like, hey, if you know any students who are still looking for PhD opportunities in those areas, I'm willing to talk to them. But to me, like now when people come to me for any advice, I often tell them it's like the first batch of students like are probably the most important decision someone will make as a new assistant professor, because that's the group of students that will define the culture of your, right? Because once your first batch of students start, and then all the, later on when you recruit new groups of students, they will join this lab and they will be influenced by the culture already in the lab, right? So I make sure that I recruit students that not only have very strong research record and methodological background, but they will also be a great culture fit for my group. But I was very fortunate. So I think among the first 4 students, 2 of them are like folks I already either I already know, or like folks who have already worked extensively with like my friends, like people I actually trust. So I was able to basically convince them to join me, and that helped a lot. They were able to like start contributing, start publishing, and start defining the culture and the identity of group. Like
That's
basically from day
interesting.
one.
Yeah. So I want to touch a little bit more on the lab culture since you mentioned it. But before I do that, I want to just you say your group is 7 people now, and a few of them joined the first year. Have you ever need to kind of fire students in your 3 years at University of Notre Dame?
Not yet, not yet. I feel very fortunate. All the students I've recruited so far are doing very well, are productive, and we still have that. I mean, at least from my perspective, we still have that great like past relationship, which I think is important. Although I remember like in multiple occasions, I've had like my mentors, like more senior faculty member told me, like, you never become a lab director, like really until you have to fire someone. That's it. Like I'm still not there yet. But yes, I think yeah, I mean, I'm just very fortunate that I think all my students have that, very open communicating style. I mean, we've of course, like some of us, like we've encountered problems, but I think the key there is really have trust and be able to communicate openly. But each party really needs to trust that the other party is doing their best. I think that's important, right? It's like I think truly, I think that's something that's really concerning me. It's like I've never encountered it myself, but I've heard it from a lot of my colleagues. It's like a lot of students nowadays, they seem to get really defensive. Like a lot of them are very suspicious of the intention of their, faculty mentors or faculty advisors. And I think that's not healthy. I mean, to be fair, I mean, there are a small group of faculty advisors out there. Sometimes they are probably not making decisions or planning in the best interest of students. But I would say the vast majority of us, we truly are planning in the best interest of a student. I mean, that's probably the number one thing I learned from my own advisor, Brad Myers. So he told me basically, I mean, he has probably one of the biggest like family tree in the HCI field, right? It's like, I don't know how many like very successful. Like the tree is like 7 levels deep with like over 200-300 people on it. So it's truly amazing. And one thing I learned from Brad is he told me like whenever you are making decisions, you should always prioritize the interests of a student. Because if all your students are doing very well, they are very successful, you will be it's guaranteed that you will have a successful career. And I think that's very true. So a lot of times, like, you don't want to make decisions that are based on very short-term, like, interest or gain, right? It's like, let's say if we have a very practical scenario, you have a PhD student who's considering doing an industry internship. And let's say the student is, let's say, almost determined that he or she want to pursue an industry career afterwards. But yet he or she is working on a funded project you have, and having he or she stay in your lab for summer can really benefit, the funded projects. But if he or she leave for internship, you will have to find someone else or, putting a lot of extra effort to meet the deliverable milestone of your funding agency. So in that case, I mean, obviously, I mean, for short-term interest, you will probably try to convince the student to stay for the summer. But to me, I think the right thing to do is always you want to prioritize the student's interest. How can you best support them in the career that they are interested in? So I think in the long run, that's what will make a successful career for you. It's like if you prioritize that, then 10 years later, 20 years later, you will have, a large group of lab alums, everywhere, right? Some in academia, some in industry, some probably doing very successful startups, some maybe in government agencies doing policy work, etc. And you will have very healthy relationship with all of them. And I think that would, in the long run, help your career a lot more than if you focus on those very short-term, interests or priorities.
Yeah, that's really helpful to learn. And the reason why I bring this up is in the same batch that I like in the lab that I did my PhD in, like there were 3 students joined at the same time as me, and then at the end, like only I kind of survived that journey, like a 1 out of 3 in my year. And then more broadly in the Columbia CS department, like in my batch, I think I forgot exactly how many students are in my year, probably 20, 30, around that range, like 30 to 40 students, PhD students. At the end, it's probably around 50% of students who made it at the end. So statistics speaking, half of the student will leave the program one way or another. Some turn to master's degrees, and some just didn't finish any degree, and some switch advisor to other department or within the department. But that's kind of at least at my time at Columbia, that's kind of statistics. I don't know if you have such statistics at UND and yeah.
I think at Notre Dame, I think our graduation rate is probably higher than 50%, but I'm pretty sure it's probably not much higher. And to be fair, I mean, I don't think the goal is necessarily to push everyone through that funnel. So everyone who started a PhD program would end with a PhD. I don't think that's the right thing to do. Because to be fair, like PhD is a very niche degree, right? It's not for everyone. It's very specifically a research training. It's designed for someone who either want to be a faculty member, someone who want to be a researcher, or someone who want to take a different role, let's say in policy or in startup. But a role that would really leverage that independent research skill. And it's a very difficult process. It's not for everyone. Like, I mean, I've never had to like cancel out any of my own PhD students, but I've helped with that process for a lot of other students from different groups. And I think that's in a lot of cases that's the right thing to do for everyone. Like, right? I've met a lot of students who started the PhD program, never finished it, but now have a very happy life, very successful career. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But to me, like, even if, let's say, if one day I discover that for one of my students, after a lot of conversation and discussion, we come to that mutual agreement that finishing the PhD, spend another 4 or 5 years on the PhD is not the best decision for everyone. If we come to that point, I think it's still my responsibility, or at least if the students would want to help, I think I should still help them to smooth out that process, both psychologically, make sure they realize that it's not a failure. I think that's very important. Like, not finishing a PhD doesn't mean you failed, right? Mm-hmm. It simply means that after spending some time trying it out, you learn something more about yourself, right? You understand yourself better. You understand your own priority, your own values better. At the same time, you also learn more about the research career because you've spent 1 year, 2 years, 3 years interacting daily with this academic community. And after that process, you learn more about yourself. You learn more about this field and this career. And ultimately, you made the decision that this is not the best path for yourself. I will call that an achievement, right? You learn more about yourself, and you learn more about the field, and you learn useful skills that you can apply elsewhere. So I think that's very important. And also, at the same time, I think I would also help that student with a transitioning process, right? If a student is, for example, interested in finding let's say, a technical or software engineering job instead, if I have any resources, I would also help the student.
Yeah. Since you mentioned the first batch of students joined 3 years ago at the same time as you, so I guess they haven't graduated yet. So the next question is probably asking for them, like, how do you decide whether they're ready to go?
Well, to me, like, I think there are two questions, right? The first is, what's the minimal bar for PhD, in my opinion? And second is, how do you decide, like, when is the best time to graduate? And those two are usually, and sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different. Right? To me, the minimal bar would be the student would have demonstrated competency in at least one area of research. And they would have also demonstrated this more general capability of conducting independent research, right? So those are two different aspects. The first really focus on a specialty, right? Let's say you have one student working on human AI co-creation for, let's say, multimodal content. Then the student would need to have the sufficient knowledge. They would understand the literature, the theory, and the fundamental methodologies required for conducting research in that area. And the second aspect is really about this, domain agnostic capability as a researcher. Do they know how to ask good questions? Do they know how to think like a researcher? Do they know how to manage a research project, bring it from an idea to insights, results, papers, projects, impacts, right? To me, like a student will need to have developed competencies in both of those areas. I don't really have like a quantified metrics, like, the student will have to publish 5 papers or whatsoever. But I mean, there's really correlation between those two, right? Although I think the correlation is getting weaker nowadays after, we know a lot of conferences, the review process has become incredibly random. But still, I feel like as a successful, or at least as a qualified PhD student, you probably need to have, my rule of thumb is if you have around 3 full peer-reviewed articles at very good places on a coherent topic, then in all likelihood, you would have met the bar I mentioned before. But if you don't, then it's really case by case, right? Sometimes, you're just unlucky with the review process. In that case, we can look more closely into your qualifications. But yes, that's the first question. Basically, the minimal requirement for graduation. But I guess the second part is actually more important, is that when is the best time to graduate, right? That really depends on the student's career path, right? I mean, in all likelihood, I think the answer will be, if the student has a job offer that they are excited about, lined up, then they're ready to graduate, right? Because in most cases, it wouldn't make sense to graduate if you don't already have a job. Then you basically graduate into unemployment. Why would you do that, right? And also, it's also a signifier, right? It's like, in all likelihood, if you can find a very good research job or a very good faculty job, that's also a very good signal that you have already met, all the criteria in the first part.
Yeah, that all makes sense. I think we'll need to chat again in a few years to see how you're holding up with these two criteria. Let's revisit lab culture. So earlier you mentioned the first batch of students is really important because those 3 students will likely, together with you, the 4 of you, will likely shape the initial lab culture. And as new people join, they will, of course, they still change it somehow. They'll still morph into this thing. But the initial batch is really important. I want to hear about, like, what's your lab culture? How do you think about your lab at Notre Dame?
Let's see. I mean, I think lab culture, I think there are 2 parts that are very important. One is, how do I interact with the students? The second is how the students interact with each other. So for the first part, I mean, generally, I'm a very laid back person. So, I mean, I like to just have a very open and casual communication pattern with my students. It's like, most of my students, I think they feel pretty comfortable just, sending me Slack messages, and I mean, they don't have to be particularly formal or anything with me. And also, I think another thing about me is I think I'm very comfortable with not knowing about things. So it's yeah, I mean, one thing about the research portfolio in my lab right now is we have a very consistent methodology. My lab focuses on the design and the implementation and the study of practical human AI cognitive systems for mostly like complex, cognitive, knowledge intensive tasks. But if you look at the application domains, it's incredibly broad. Like we have things on education, privacy, content creation, future of work, more recently, healthcare, medical. So it's very broad. And I'm just very open to everyone. It's like, I think I understand the core methodology of what we do very well, but I have very limited domain knowledge on any of those domains. So I make that very obvious to everyone. It's like, it's totally okay. I don't know everything. Educate me. I'm very open to being challenged. I'm very open to, at the meeting when I realize I'm wrong about something. I think that helps. And I think the trust really helps. I think at this point, I hope all my students have that trust in me that I'm, in most cases, like in all scenarios, I'm trying to make, decisions in their best interest. And if they have any questions or they feel like they have any thoughts or they have any goals, preferences, values that they would like to let me know, they should feel comfortable to come and talk to me. And I wouldn't, get mad or anything, retaliate. So I think that part works really well. That part I feel proud of. The other part is how the students interact with each other. To me, I think one thing we really try to do in the past 3 years is to build that community, get students to interact with each other more. The number one challenge is get everyone back in person. Because, like after pandemic, like people are really used to, work from home, work remotely, which is great. I mean, that provides everyone a lot of flexibility, especially for those with family obligations. But I still think, like, if you want to truly build a community, you want to facilitate, foster those kind of, serendipity videos type of interaction, where like, folks just randomly go out, grab coffee with each other, get lunch together, casually chat about random stuff. And that's first what builds trust, what builds relationship. And second, that's also how usually a lot of random ideas just pop up, right? I did my PhD at Carnegie Mellon. I started in 2021. So I was able to spend most of my PhD years before the pandemic. And I feel that really helped me a lot. It's like, because the thing I like the most about Carnegie Mellon is like, I was in the HCI Institute. It was an incredibly interdisciplinary place. Like, my bachelor's degree was in computer science, but a lot of my closest friends in that program, like they got their bachelor's training in social science, design, liberal arts, philosophy, even. So we approach problems, not only research problems, but everything from very different, perspectives, from very different. We use different sets of theories and tools to analyze the same problem. And through those interactions, a lot of them are very casual, very unstructured. I feel I was able to learn how to see things from their perspective. And that really helped me, doing the kind of interdisciplinary research I'm doing right now. So that's why, like, I really want to foster that kind of interaction. Several things we've done. We got a very nice coffee machine. Okay.
Yeah.
We try to put together like events once in a while. Like we would have those monthly like large HCI group meeting with pizza. We have several like workshops and busy deadline parties. Like I think we've had a few like busy events where just like students get together, we order food, and they would just talk about their upcoming submissions before deadlines. They would just exchange drafts and everything. And we will also sometimes have happy hours, usually after major conference deadlines, where we would just go to a nearby bar and we'll just, drink and eat and talk about stuff. So it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of those events, and I think really help, build up that lab culture. Oh, another thing we recently did was, because the WIST conference was last month and it was close enough. It was in Pittsburgh, so it was like a 6-hour drive. So I just rented a big van and I just took the entire lab with me, and it was very fun because it's like 7 of us in a van for 6 hours. I think our way there, we stopped by and we stopped by at a all-you-can-eat hot pot and sushi place in Cleveland. And we had a lot of fun. And on the way back, we stopped by the Korean restaurant. But like on that trip, because like we're just talking about, I think we didn't spend a lot of time talking about research. We just talk about random stuff, like culture, food, music. Like I think one thing we did was like we were just playing music, right? Each person just play their favorite music to a entire band. And, like students in that band that came from different backgrounds, right? I think we have a few like students from like the more like from China. We have a Korean student, we have an Ethiopian student, and we're just, playing our favorite music and talking about life. Right? That was fun. And I think all those things really contribute.
Yeah. One thing that I learned from your sharing just now is like Amazon CEO should take some of your talking points, like great coffee machine, like free pizza, free drinks, if they want to enforce their return to office policy. Like, yeah.
Yes, you really need those resources. And I'm glad that I'm in an environment where that kind of culture is celebrated. Because I know that, for example, I have colleagues in public universities, public institutions, where they have much more strict rules on what can you buy with, lab money. Like I don't think it's easy to buy a fancy coffee machine for your lab in a lot of institutions. I know in a lot of institutions, it's very hard to buy food with lab money, and it's almost impossible to buy alcohol with lab money.
Yeah, like Adobe, we have a gift program, and then like it's not a lot of money compared with NSF or other like federal grants, but one thing is it's unrestricted. So one thing that I like to tell my collaborator is like whenever there's this gift funding opportunity come up, it's like, okay, you should talk to me, and then we should try to get you for you so that you can spend it however you want with your students. Yeah, because the NSF grants won't cover like alcohol or other like, yeah.
Well, for us, it's like we cannot use any federal money or research grants for any of those purposes. So really, as you said, like all of our fund money, like coffee machine, hot pot, like those alcohol happy hour, it really just came from, as you said, industry gifts, right? So that's like our number one incentive of trying to work with industry and get industry gifts so we can have our fund money.
Yeah. So you talk about this two aspect. One is how you interact with the student. The other is how they interact among themselves. And they also share a little bit on like an example how kind of you foster them. Like the van trip is a great example. I think a 6-hour van trip where you're all confined into the van. I think that's a great way to kind of get people talking and sharing a little more outside of their traditional like research topics. But do you have any explicit do you try to foster that culture explicitly, or you're kind of trying to just letting it go, see how you grow organically?
Yeah, I think it's more of the latter, and I think it also really depends on the personality of the lab members and also the PI, right, the director of the lab. I mean, because otherwise it wouldn't make sense. Like, for if I will be forced to do things that I don't enjoy myself, to develop a certain kind of culture that I think would be nice for my lab to have, I think that's anti-productive or counterproductive, right? So that's why like to some degree, I think, some people are saying like the the identity of the lab, the culture of the lab, is really identified by you really defined by the director, him or herself. I don't fully agree with that, but I think at least I partially agree with that, because it wouldn't make sense, right? Like, I think I can think of instances among people I know who tried really hard to foster a culture that they think would be nice to have. Maybe they read it from, one of those leadership books or something, but it really didn't align with their own personal personality. And it's just like very exhausting for them, I think. Because I think, one thing I usually tell people, and I also often think of myself to remind myself of, is really the only reason why we are doing this job, at least for a lot of us, is because we enjoy it. Because to be fair, especially for, computer science, AI, but very broadly defined faculty members in this area, if they quit their faculty job and try to get an industry job, they will typically make a lot more money than they currently do, right? So really, we're all just giving up a lot of potential earning opportunity to do this job. So why would you do that if you don't even enjoy your day-to-day life, your day-to-day operation? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I certainly don't mean by explicit. I don't mean like enforce some things, but what I mean was more like if I join a new company, like I like the company usually have some kind of guidelines. Like this is like how company cultural, and then more implicitly when I look at the internal Slack groups, then I can get how people are interacting. Then I join meetings and see how people are interacting, and then I walk through some research cycles, product release cycles. Then I kind of also get more understanding. And I find that helpful because those things, because I usually trust what people are doing, not what they're saying. So this is the way that I observe how things are happening. But I feel that's also a very slow process that could take like years, if not longer, to fully understand what's happening and then start to change that cultural. And in a lab environment, like it's kind of all time box, right? Like in the company that I'm working at, people have super long tenure. Like I've worked with people who've been here like 30 years, so it's okay for them to spend the first couple of years like just adapting and then knowing and adapting. But then for a time boxed PhD journey, it doesn't make sense for a student to spend like first 2 years just to getting to know the culture. So do you have any way to kind of onboard them faster, or it's still pretty much
And
organic?
I don't know. I think it's pretty much organic,
Yep.
but it's I think I think it's really the personality of the PI. Because I'm the kind of person who just, I don't want to deal with details. So the last thing I want to do is micromanage. So it's like, as long as you're making progress, I don't care about details. I don't really care. Like if you tell me, hey, I want to take a week off, 2 weeks off, go and hike in the mountains or something. Usually it's like, yes, sure. So as long as you don't miss any important deadline, and you make arrangement for all of your responsibilities during those 2 weeks, fine. But I really care about trust, right? If I figure the trust is broken, I think it's very hard to repair. And I really value like self-motivation. Because what I just said about faculty is also applied to PhD student, right? It's like for most of our PhD student, if they just quit a PhD right now and find a job, they instantly make at least 3x, 4x more money. But I tell everyone, it's like the only reason you are here is because you like it and you enjoy what you're doing. You're passionate about it. If you're no
Or they're
longer
optimizing for
passionate,
future earnings. Like it's another possibility.
well, I think in most cases, at least I'm at least in my calculation, like doing a PhD is almost never a good deal financially. I tell that to all the potential PhD students. It's like, just want to let you know, like you're throwing away potentially $1 million in the next 5 years by doing a PhD. So I would encourage you to make that $1 million.
Yeah.
The only reason why you want your PhD is because you're really passionate about it. You enjoy your topic. You truly believe that you are making positive impact to the research community, to the humanities.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're taking a very idealistic view, and I'm taking a very practical view. I think doing a PhD, I think of course you should love it, but then also doing a PhD at a reasonably good place, lab, like can open a lot of door for you that otherwise doesn't open for undergrads, and then that kind of optimize for future earning, because then you're on a different research trajectory, or like at least R&D trajectory. You're not like you're not following the same trajectory that you would have been if you just got your undergrad and started engineering. Of course, if you do really well in engineering, you also skyrocket it. You're gonna get promoted really fast and then like climb the corporate ladder really well. But I think for many PhD students, just practically speaking, if you do a PhD really well, like your future earning, this is also kind of good. Yeah.
Yes,
Um,
I mean another thing on students is like you can potentially. I mean, if you do a mathematical expectation of earning, I think in all likelihood, for the same person, right? For a person who has what it takes to get into a top PhD program, they would probably make more money if they didn't do the PhD. But again, it's not about the money, right? I mean, another thing I tell people is like I can just tell my students is, I think there's a very significant diminishing return in how much money you make like on your happiness once it passes a certain threshold, right? And I think for a lot of us, like that threshold is not that high, right? It's like once you can afford a pretty nice house, you can afford cars, you can afford good education for your kids, you can buy whatever you want in a grocery store. Whenever you want to eat out, you eat out. Whenever you want to buy a toy, like you want to buy, I don't know, the latest, I don't know, PS5 or I don't know, Vision Pro, whatsoever, you can buy it. I mean, all those things combined, you don't need that much money, right? Also, I mean, that depends on where you are, right? I mean,
we're
if you
fortunate
are
in
in
the
Bay Area,
computer science industry, so it's yeah,
like
yeah.
other science, maybe in Bay Area, that's probably, I don't know, $500,000 a year. I don't know. I mean, here in Indiana, I mean, I don't make nearly that. I make probably half of that, and I feel I'm already there. Like I already can't spend all my money. I mean, that sounds weird, but it's true. I don't even make that much money, but I mean, this is rural Indiana. Like my house is like $350,000. My monthly mortgage is $1,500, and I don't need that much money. Like I feel like if you double my salary overnight, that wouldn't change my life at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Um, so you talk a lot about lab culture, and that's great. So in the last 2 years, tell me some of the things that went really well that I think that go right as you expected, or even exceeded your expectations, and also on the other hand, like things that's unexpectedly hard, that has been really challenging for you and your lab.
I think we did a wonderful job in growing in our HCI group here at the Notre Dame, which is something I'm very proud of. Like when I joined Notre Dame, like I was the second HCI faculty member in the department. And back then, before I joined, I think we have around 4 to 5 PhD students. And we on average publish maybe 1 or 2 paper a year. So we have a presence in HCI, but it's not that big, right? But now we have 4 faculty members. 2 more are joining next year. That will make 6 of us. We have more than 25 PhD students in our HCI, and we published 10 full papers like high last year. And this year, we just got our first round reviews back, right? If everything goes as expected, we will have more than 10 papers. And I'm very proud of that because, I mean, if you're not familiar with that number, like that number would put us on par with a lot of schools that is traditionally regarded as, strong HCI groups, right? Like that would put us on par with places like Northwestern, University of Chicago, Columbia included. So it's like those are very strong places, very good places. And now if you, of course, it's more than number. Right? I never advocate for only look at number, but at least from a number point of view, number of faculty, number of students, number of high papers were on par with those great places. And we also have a lot of success in attract grant money. I think in the last year alone for HCI, we're able to bring in more than $2.5 million combined from all sources. That's, at least in my opinion, quite a success. And we're also very active in the HCI community. Like a lot of us are very visible in the community. We're serving all kinds of service roles. We're leading the community, like different community-wide initiatives. So I think, and all of those were achieved in 3 years, which I think is quite incredible. And it's really the hard work from all my colleagues and students. But I'm very proud to be a part of that initiative. So that worked out really, really good. Better than what I had expected.
Great. How about things that are more challenging than you originally anticipated?
More challenging. I don't know. I mean, it sounds weird, but I had, when I started, like, I'm always the kind of person who expect things to be more difficult than it actually is. So I often over prepare, which turned out to be a good thing. But I don't know, things work out real. Like because I think for example, when I started my job, I had zero idea how to write grant proposals. Things turned out to be all right. I got really good mentorships. I was fortunate to have the opportunity to, learn from a lot of very experienced, more senior colleagues who are, who graciously agree to go through the process with me together, take me as their collaborators, and allow me to learn along their sides. So I really learned all the, tricks and valuable insights from them, which I'm really thankful for. I was also anxious about, managing a lab, right? Because I had a lot of experience. I mentoring younger students when I was a PhD student. And ultimately that was also part of the reason why I decided to become a faculty member. Because I realized I really enjoy mentorship. Like I was fortunate, like one of the undergrads who worked with me when I was a PhD student, like she was awesome. Like she and I, she was a co-first author on one of my kite paper. And she also won the CRA Undergraduate Research Award. So that was like, I think the award that goes out to like 4 best undergraduate researchers in computer science, in the whole computer science across the United States. It's a very prestigious award. So she was wonderful. And that was also the same week when I heard about that news. I also heard about the news on my own paper. And when I won a Best Paper Award at the venue. And I realized I was a lot happier about the achievement of my mentee than I was about, the news about my own Best Paper Award. That's also partially how I decided to become a faculty member. But of course, when I started, I was very anxious because I've heard about all those, stories of conflicts or, when things went very wrong between PhD advisors and their students. I've also observed some of those. But luckily, as we just mentioned, things went well. I never had to fire anyone yet. So, but yeah, things are going well.
That's good to know. I think it's great that you I think it sounds like you're an open preparer. Like you kind of want to be prepared for a lot of things. You overestimate the challenges that prepare you really well for the faculty journey. That's I'm happy for that. let's talk about the new center that you are a director of. Can you tell me more about that center?
Sure, yes. It's called Human-Centered Responsible AI Lab. It's under the Lucey Family Institute of Data and Society. So it's not in computer science department. So my primary affiliation is in the computer science and engineering department, which is under the College of Engineering. But our new center is under a different institute at the University of Notre Dame. And at this point, we have 6, 7 faculty affiliates, but only one of them is, full time with our primary affiliation in the institute and the center. The rest of us, like we have our primary affiliations mostly in different academic departments. Some of us are in computer science. And we also have faculty affiliates from the business school. We also have someone from liberal arts. So it's very interdisciplinary. And our primary focus is, so I should probably start with why we have a cell. I should start with why a center is needed, right? So for those of you who are not familiar with how academic structure works in most American universities, there are usually like 2 separate type of systems, right? One is a more traditional like academic departments, colleges. So you will have, so under university, right, there will be several colleges, like there can be College of Engineering, College of Liberal Arts, the business school, etc. And those colleges can have departments like Department of Computer Science, right? And that's where teaching and research in computer science is done. So that's like typically how things are structured for hundreds of years. But then in the past decades, there's this new emergence of interdisciplinary collaboration, right? We're seeing we're increasingly seeing how, for example, computer scientists start working with economists, sociologists, designers, policy people, things like that. Right. And those kind of interdisciplinary research is very hard to do under the current college/department structure, because there's no dedicated infrastructure to support that kind of research. Right. If you want to start a new research proposal, if it's a big one, then you need folks to facilitate that submission. You need folks to help you with broader impact, with community engagement, with things like that. You typically don't get very strong infrastructure set up for that in, for example, College of Engineering, right? Because the infrastructure there is designed to support more traditional, engineering research. They wouldn't have any dedicated person with, for example, training in policy. They wouldn't have a dedicated person with training in engaging with educational initiatives, for example. So that's why, like, recently, you'll see like, a lot of universities are starting those interdisciplinary institutes and centers. So that's where, you have those like dedicated infrastructures and personnel to support interdisciplinary collaboration. And the institute that our center is affiliated with, the Lucey Family Institute of Data and Society, is one of them. It was founded 4 years ago with the focus on basically connecting data and data science, very broadly defined, to solving the practical problems in society. And the center we're starting is called Human-Centered Responsible AI. And from the name, you can tell the focus is really how we can use human-centered methods. That includes the needs finding process, the iterative design, the participatory design, as a human-centered evaluation of systems with all those like HCI methodologies. How can you use those methodologies to design, to develop, and to deploy practical AI systems that can be used by communities to address like societal problems, which is a strong focus on how we can solve problems faced by under-resourced communities in our society. So that's what the center is all about.
And how how do you measure success for that center? It sounds like a great vision. I agree with that, but it also, since it's interdisciplinary, as you said, most of the faculty they are not primarily affiliated with the center. How would you or the president of the university evaluate the success of such program?
Mm, I mean, quantitatively, I think. Well, I mean, first you have the more traditional academic metrics, right? It's like papers, citations, things like that. I mean, those obviously still matter, right? Because I mean, as long as you're doing it in an academic environment, you're working on very important interdisciplinary problems. But ultimately, they need to be published somewhere. They need to have that academic impact, usually showing citation numbers. You need to be able to produce PhD students, graduate students. You need to train undergraduate students. Those are the academic impacts. And then, of course, societal impacts, right? If you like, we really put a strong emphasis on building systems that can be deployed in the community. How successful is that? How many people are using your system? How big of an impact is your system making? Like for example, one of the systems we're building right now is a tool that try to empower low-income communities in the local area, help them have more equal access to rideshare services, and use that as a tool to help with economic development by allowing low-income workers who usually suffer from transportation insecurity, ensure that they have reliable backup transportation options so they can get to work reliably. So that's actually a very, very common problem in a lot of post-industrial cities, especially in the Midwest America. Right, you have a lot of low-income workers who don't have jobs, and you have job opportunities that are usually further away, let's say 5 miles, 10 miles away. Like for example, here we have a very big Amazon warehouse in Elkhart, which is like 10 miles away from here, 10, 20. And the thing is, a lot of those low-income workers, they don't have reliable transportations. So they may have a car, but their car often breaks down. Or they rely on carpooling, but if the carpool partners don't show up, they cannot get to work, right? And those low-income workers, we put a lot of resources helping them find a job. But the problem is, if they don't have reliable transportation, they cannot retain their job, right? Especially if they work for Amazon, right? They're managed by algorithm. So if they're absent a few times, we just, automatically get terminated by an algorithm. And that's a very bad outcome for all parties involved. So like workers no longer have a job. They probably, suffer from poverty. Employers don't have enough workers, and the society, right? We spend a lot of resources helping those workers get a job. Now that's wasted. Those workers come back on, Social Security and the social benefits and everything. And we're basically designing a system that will allow us to first. So it's based on a system that's the city government has been running for a few years. The idea is that we give those workers basically a few like heavily subsidized Uber or Lyft trips every month. So if they don't have reliable transportation, if the car breaks down, they will just get an Uber and they can get to work. The problem is, here South Bend is a small city. The density of Uber drivers is very low, and they are heavily congregated in the more popular areas, right? Downtown, airport, university. They are usually not around the more under-resourced, low-income areas. Plus, a lot of those drivers, they also have stereotypes against residents in those areas, right? They told us, we don't want to pick up people from that neighborhood because they are more likely to be troublemakers, for example. So we're really designing a system that will align those incentives and try to build trust so that we can have basically higher quality rideshare services for those low-income neighborhoods that can better benefit, the society as a whole. So for a project like that, right, then we will have a lot of project-specific metrics for the participant of the program. How does using our system affect their earning, affect their, hours worked, if you look at the program as a whole, how does the use of our system affect the average waiting time for our workers? How does it affect the average, timeliness of our workers who they use our system? So those are the more program-specific metric. And third is obviously, right? If you want to maintain the standard and to support this project, we need to have grants from from all agencies, right? NSF, NIH, DARPA, ARPA-H, foundations. That's also a metric. It's a more indirect metric, right? If your project can be supported by those external agencies, that's also an indicator that you are doing something right. Your impacts are being recognized.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Your second point, like it's really depressing to hear that like Amazon will just use algorithm to terminate people and evaluate on people. I think it's it's a weird world that we're living in right now, where algorithm decides the fate of workers.
Yes.
Yeah, and and kind of related to the you taking on this new role as the director of the center. What do you do? What do you do as director? And yeah.
Two parts, right? The first part is more on the administrative and the logistical side, right? It's like the day-to-day operations, right? Finance, budgeting, communication, right? Like, I mean, we have a very nice, like very, 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 very good, like director of communication in the institute. And I work very closely with her in developing all the materials, websites, news articles, things like that. And human resources, right? It's like for example, we're hiring postdocs now. So I'm writing job descriptions, working with human resources to post those jobs and keep track of the hiring process. So that half is on the more administrative side of things. And the second half, which I'm really excited about, is really the research leadership side, right? It's like I spend time talking to all the faculty affiliates, learning about what's going on, what they are excited about, what are some new tools, new data set, new methodology they are developing in their labs and groups that I think could be opportunities for joint forces. So I'm kind of like that middleman. Like I talk to everyone, learn about what's going on, and identify opportunities for collaboration and connect people together. It's like, hey, so it's you guys are working on things that, so a lot of times it's like, if you think the topics are very different, but you want to be able to see like there's a overlap in the methodology, the overlap in the underlying machine learning model, or overlap in some theory that they are using it to ground in their work, right? Once you see those connections, you connect people together and try to encourage people to join forces to tackle bigger problems, to tackle more complex problems, and to tackle problems with greater societal benefits. And then the next part will be once you identify those potential collaborations, you also want to link those group of people to potential funding opportunities, right? Like the funding opportunity is an indicator of what type of work needs to be done, or what type of work that the funding agency are looking to support, right? So we also work. We spend a lot of time doing that. We call it like research program development. We see how we can connect the dots to form an initiative, and then how do you frame your initiatives and reshape your initiatives so you can advocate for resources to support the initiative, both internally and externally.
Got it. Yeah. sounds like a slightly different with what you do as a professor, but it's somewhat related. I think you use a lot of the expertise that you built up um, throughout the years. Last question on today. I think we are a little bit over time, but last question on the list is when do you decide to take on new roles? You talk about earlier in the episode. You talk about, hey, even if you can double your salary by working in a tech company, you won't do it because you think you have enough money to live a happy life in Indiana. And however, you seems very happy to take this new job. I don't know if it's a job or just a title as the director of this new center. So when do you decide to take new roles and when do you say no?
It's a great question. And it's something I struggle with because I have a hard time saying no. So I usually overcommit, but it's something I'm trying to fix right now. But typically my heuristic is like, you need to like, you need for me to take on something, it needs to be a combination of some parts of either it's something I really enjoy or it's something I am very good at, or it's something I can learn a lot from, or it's something that I think can make very positive impact on something I care deeply about. Usually, I mean, you need to tick multiple of those boxes for me to consider it. But I think the challenge is there are just way too many, opportunities that I'm excited about, and those that will tick all those boxes that I find a hard time saying no to. But I think it's also a good thing. Like I got for this new role, like I think I can. It's definitely something I'm very excited about. It's like, and I'm sure it will make very positive impact both internally and Notre Dame, right? I think it's something that will fill in a gap of all the existing institute and centers we have, because we have a lot of institute and centers focusing on more like the data analytics side of things and the more community engagement side of things. But I think there's a opportunity in connecting those with, more like a system focused approach where we actually build systems, develop practical software and hardware systems, deploy it, and to study the impact of a system through those deployments. And we're also working on a lot of problems that I deeply care about as a citizen, right? It's like those things with societal benefits, poverty, healthcare, well-being, sustainability. So I feel like it's something that can potentially bring a lot of value to the society. And I'm not sure it's something I will be good at because I've never done anything like this, but I feel it's definitely a good opportunity for me to learn, right? So I've only been in this role for a little bit more than a month, but I feel I've already learned a lot. I feel like I've already, I'm already being able to see things from new perspectives, because I've talked to a lot of like my mentors, more senior members of community who have had these similar roles. And I've had a lot of conversation with them, learning from how they do it, how they think about the things. And I feel like I've grown quite a lot just in the past month. So I feel so far, I think it's great. It's definitely a great opportunity. I feel in the past years, a lot of things I've said yes to, they follow a very similar pattern, right? Things that I've never done, things I'm excited about, and things that I think will serve a great cause, like on all aspects, right? It's like on the academic service side, I agree to be the general chair of IUI next year. It's a lot of work, but I feel I've learned a lot, and I hope it's also benefiting the community. Recently, I've started. I've always been engaging with folks from the startup entrepreneurship world to some degree, But I think recently I've started a more substantial engagement with a group of them. I mean, I don't think I would be a good person to start a startup, because to me, like that's defeating some of the criteria I was talking about. I feel I will be spending a lot of time doing things I don't enjoy doing or I'm not good at. But I feel I'm trying to working with a group to find a role that I think will best fit the criteria I was talking about. I mean, I'm also getting into new research domains. Like I was involved in a bigger research project in healthcare, which I had zero background in. But just in the past few months, I feel I've learned so much about healthcare, and it's just a great opportunity.
Yeah, it sounds like you're saying yes to a lot of opportunities, and
a lot of my students are now getting more senior and more independent, so that allowed me to have more time on saying yes to those things. And also, I mean, also thank you all those students. Like our lab have a very steady publication stream and funding stream, so I don't have to worry as much about those two aspects of my work.
Got it. Yeah, I think this is great. Thank you for sharing a lot of the thinking behind your decisions. I know on the Google Doc that we started, there are a lot of other topics that we haven't talked today. So hopefully I'll have you back in a week or two to continue those conversations. It's great to chatting with you today. Hope to talk to you soon, Toby.
Thank you so much, Dean. You really enjoy our conversation.
I want to thank Toby Li for joining me on this Conditionally Accepted podcast today. And thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. We likely will have him back very soon to continue the discussion on job search, how he chose University of Notre Dame, and his thoughts on HCI research areas. If you have any thoughts, feedback, or suggestions for future topics or guests, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can email me at ding@halfmaker.com. I love hearing from you, and I do read every email. You can also follow me directly on X and Threads, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I'm also on Signal and WhatsApp if you want to connect there. Check out the show notes for details. If you like my show, Conditionally Accepted, please share it with your friends and subscribe whenever you get your podcast. We'll see you next time.